Imagine this scenario. You have just delivered the most wonderfully prepared and well-presented speech. You were articulate. You were imaginative. Your speech was dynamic, and the audience is visibly moved by the message you delivered. And now comes question time. The first person asks you a question that you can't answer. Next, somebody obviously disagrees with what you've said, and in their question they try to catch you out. A third person rambles on and on and on in their question, and in the end, you have no idea what the question was, no idea what was being asked at all. You are under fire. You feel like you'd like to retreat because your fantastic delivery has been shot to pieces. You don't want to be shot to pieces. You want to be in control. You want your speech to end with wonderful, truly memorable show. I am going to show you how you can fuel the fire for a fantastic finale to your speech. First of all, I recommend that you review the impromptu speaking strategies that we've already learned. After all, answering questions is about speaking impromptu. Remember, we learned about the report plan. We learned about the opinion plan, PREP, where you make your point, give a reason, an example, and restate your point. We had the cause and effect plan and the past, present, future plan. Review all those, know them well, and you will have tools ready to go to answer the questions at the end of your speech. We'll begin now by this mnemonic, plan. You need to plan to answer your questions. P-L-A-N. P, prepare and anticipate. L, listen, repeat and rephrase the question. A, answer concisely. And N, next question please. We will take these one at a time. We'll start with the first one. Prepare for and anticipate difficult questions. This is like bringing the fuel to fan the flames. Many people prepare very well for their speech or seminar, and then they wing it in question time. You, after all, are the expert on your own research. You can do better than that. Make 3 lists. First of all, a list of all the possible questions that you already know the answers to. Prepare those and remember the answers. You're set to go on the first list. The second list, these are the questions to which you do not know the answers. The obvious thing then is, yes, think of these questions and go and research them. Then you'll know the answers and memorise them. Thirdly, make a list of all the problem questions. The tricky ones that the audience will ask of you, and you know they will, that take a bit of extra care and thought, and then prepare these and plan how you will handle those questions. To begin with, I'll give you some advice. Tell the audience the ground rules. Ask them, if they're asking you a question, to please stand and identify themselves. Tell them there will only be one question per person, and then limit the number of questions you'll have. Tell them we've got 10 minutes, or tell them we have 3 questions, whatever you decide. Tell them that any complex questions requiring long answers can be handled after the seminar. So if somebody asks you a question for which the answer is quite long and involved, tell them, look, I'll speak to you some more later. We haven't got time for that now, but I'll catch you after we're finished, and we'll talk some more about that then. One of the problems that sometimes happens at question time is nobody puts up their hand. Help your audience. Tell them beforehand that you're going to have question time before you start, so that they're able to think ahead and plan the questions as they're listening to your seminar. And then have some ready-made, prepared questions of your own, just to get them started in case they need them. For example, you might say, I'm often asked why this particular thing. You might be interested to know the answer, would be that. Encourage questions also by keeping quiet for a bit when you tell the audience it's time for questions. Sometimes when you say, are there any questions, the audience needs a bit of time to think of questions, to frame how they ask their questions, or perhaps look through their notes or reflect back on what you said so that they can come up with some good questions to ask of you. The second step in our plan mnemonic is listen. Listen actively so that you can ignite the audience's attention. Now we've already learned quite a lot about active listening in this course. Listen physically. Plant your feet. Focus your energy on the audience, on the person asking the question. Use open body language. Don't stand like this when somebody is asking you a question. Maintain eye contact with the person who's asked the question and then all around. Search the audience for more questions. Sometimes you can see there might be someone who's thinking of asking a question and you just need to show them that you're interested. Encourage them to ask that question. Watch for blind spots in the audience. People who might be sitting behind other people or objects who would like to ask a question of you. As well as physically, listen mentally. Don't interrupt when somebody's asking you the question. Of course, we know interrupting is rude and uncaring, and that's not something you want to put across to the audience. So let the person asking a question finish what they have to say. Listening mentally also ensures that you have the real question, that you have understood the real question that the person is asking. And part of listening is to pause. Pause a few seconds before you start to speak, and that will help you to organise your thoughts. Repeat. This shows that you're really listening. If you pause and repeat the question, that shows not only that you've understood the question, but if you haven't understood the question, you're giving that person a chance to restate or rephrase or clarify what they're actually asking of you. And then rephrase the question. The audience would like to know what was asked. So when you pause to think, repeat what you think you heard the person ask, and then rephrase the question in your own words. Anybody in the back of the audience who may not have heard the question well will be able to have a chance to know what it is that the person asking the question actually said to you. Because after all, the questions don't belong to just that one person and you. The questions belong to everyone. Complex questions can be simplified when you rephrase. This is a very important step of handling question time. And all of that is part of listening well to your audience as they prepare to ask the questions. Step 3 of our plan, mnemonic, is answer. And this is where you get to fan the flame for the fireworks. When you answer, be short and to the point. Only give them the essentials of the answer. Direct your answer to the whole group. Not just have a one-on-one conversation with the person who happened to have asked this question, but you begin with your eye contact there and then include the whole audience in the way that you answer the question. Again, it belongs to everybody. Use your eye contact this way, first with the questioner and then to the whole group. Now, what if you don't know the answer? If you don't know the answer, say so. No need to apologise. Perhaps you could refer to another expert in the audience if possible. That happens sometimes and that can make for a very interesting exchange. I was once presenting a presentation for music and it was about a publication that I was promoting. Somebody in the audience asked the question, how much does it cost? I didn't know, but I was able to go and find out for them. These are important things to do. If you don't know, if you say so, you can avoid personal embarrassment. And it does ensure that the question will be answered. Someone once asked me about copyright obligations and I didn't know. And I promised that I would go and ask an expert in the field and get back to them and let them know. That way the answer will come to the audience and you can advise the audience that other expertise is available. The last part of our plan mnemonic is N for next question please. And this is where you get to fire another round. Recognise the questions as much as possible as they came in order. Don't ask, is that the right answer? Or don't confirm if that answers their question. This is something people often say, and it can start just a one-on-one again and encourage that person to ask more questions where there are other people waiting. We don't want to encourage one person to speak too much, preventing further questions, but instead focus on another questioner. And this is a particularly important strategy when you're dealing with difficult people. We then want to move away from hostile questioners by saying, next question please, and perhaps you can deal with that hostile question later on afterwards, just privately, one-to-one. And then you wrap up. Don't end abruptly. Let the audience know we have time for just a few more questions, and then end the session eloquently with a positive, knowledgeable answer. Summarise your message at the end, recap your main points of your delivery, and leave the audience with the message you wanted them to take home, to ponder or to take action. The take-home message. Now here are some tips for handling difficult people. Of course, always be polite and succinct in your replies. You can deliberately misinterpret seemingly hostile questions, and that will avoid embarrassment for you and in fact for the whole audience. If there is a hostile question, politeness is the best way to diffuse hostility and unjust criticism of you or of them. Never repeat a hostile question, but rephrase it. For example, if somebody says to you, I heard you screwed up. How do we know that you won't screw up on us too? The question is, have we learned from our mistakes? Much better way to rephrase. Don't be defensive. Don't argue. In fact, let the peer group pressure in the audience help you. The audience will come to your aid. I remember I once had to deliver a presentation about Latin and chant in the church, and I knew that there were people there who weren't too keen on the idea of Latin and chant. Somebody asked me a question about this. Why do we have to use Latin? Why do we have to chant? I just paused for a moment, and there was a lady in the audience who came to the defence of that position that she knew I had, and I didn't even need to answer that question. And it left the whole situation, not only me, but the whole situation in the room, in a much more friendly and, I guess, user-friendly for a message kind of a sense. Use humour. Humour always deflects hostility and negativity. And avoid power struggles. Let them know, I hear what you're saying. Acknowledge any complaints that they might have that are couched in the question. Show people that you care. Talk to people in the audience beforehand, before your speech even begins, and you'll already have an idea of the sorts of questions you're likely to get. And involve everybody. When you do this, it can change the group dynamics considerably as you seek feedback from the whole audience. Never take resistance personally. It's not as if the person asking the question has personal agenda against you, but they might have personal agendas of their own, Often, hostile questions come out of fears that people have. Realise this and don't take it on board personally. Disaster recovery. What if you're in the middle of answering a question and you lose your train of thought? Again, have your main points of your presentation there. Use handouts. If you use your train of thought, handouts can actually be very useful as you can refer to them. You can use overhead and PowerPoint slides and the note pages that come with PowerPoint. But don't use PowerPoint just as your personal notes. You should be able to give your speech even if the PowerPoint fails. The PowerPoint or whatever visual aid you have is just there to further clarify and further amplify your message, but it should never become a crutch for you to remember the next thing that you're going to say. Stay calm. The audience will never know. Breathe deeply. Breathe out. The audience will never know if you're feeling that you are recovering from a disaster. Involve the audience. You can ask the audience for help if you need to. A good thing to do if you do have any kind of a disaster is twist it around and again apply a little self-deprecating humour. Audiences always love that. Let's now summarise what we've been speaking about today, about question time. We have our mnemonic plan. PLAN, prepare and anticipate, listen, repeat and rephrase the question, answer concisely, and then, next question please. The key is for you as a powerful speaker to learn about your audience, to interact with them, to listen to them, and then to look in control at all times. And then you can fuel the fire for a fantastic finale.